It was a regular day at the Inhata apartments. Kanako was helping some of the other residents taking care of the problem since she had been acting as a temporary manager for the apartments, even though that she usually taking care of things by herself. But today she needed some extra help, and she actually had asked Motoko if she could help her. And Motoko was not didn't mind to help her friend about this, despite though that she was originally wants to do some martial art practice at her family's Shinmei Ryu School of Martial Arts. But she had to call her older sister Tsuruko to cancel her training for that day because she wanted to help was needed to help at the department. And her older sister didn't mind because if she understand that if they that she needs help around, and she did. But despite helping around this at the apartment building, there were a lot of things that can easily be taken care of. Motoko, she went help around in the kitchen, helped around to clean some cleaning, while Kanako took care of some of the other things, the laundry himself. But there were a lot of things that could have been worked out. But despite that, well, that when Kanoko was taking care of the laundry, she was thinking about something. She was actually thinking about Motoko. Motoko had been a very close friend of hers for at least for a while, but it was something else. As long as they had known each other, and even for a very special time, for only short time though, she has started to have feelings for Motoko, and that in fact she was even lesbian. She had even told anyone about this, but she was a little bit she was a bit nervous how the others would react to this. She was just she didn't even know how the others in the apartment building would at least react to this. She was just worried. But at least she would be happy if someone could telling her that it was okay to be a lesbian. But even her crush for Motoko was beyond anything. She really loved her more than anything. In her mind, she was a beautiful, very skilled in swordsmanship, like her own older sister. But even to mind though, she had no idea if she would ever had a chance with Motoko. Because even if Motoko did like her only as a friend, or she can even know for sure if Motoko was into girls or has even both genders. So in her mind, it was best to just forget about these feelings for Motoko like forever. But if that would be in a very hard time for her. Because every single time when she is seeing Motoko, like on a picture or in person, or if they just talk to each other, she can feel her heart was beating faster every single time. Even when she's on her bed, just looking at the ceiling, thinking about Motoko makes her heart feel racing faster. She wanted to tell someone about this, but she had no idea. Sometimes she just wanted to scream right out, like right out. She had a crush on Motoko. But at the same time, she was too afraid to even do so. But she had the feeling wanted to do that, but wouldn't. A lot of things has happened between Motoko and Kanako. They have been very close friends over a couple of years. Despite they lived in the same place and they have several things in common. But there's Motoko. She really didn't know about this either, because during the same time, when Motoko was in the kitchen, helping around to make some prepare for lunch for the rest of some of the people in the apartment building, she is in fact was thinking about Kanako. Kanako and her had been very close, even though some of them would consider her as a best friend. But it was something about her that she made felt maybe she was meant to be like that, feeling for Kanako. But the rest of that day, Motoko actually took care of some of the things like cleaning of some of the rooms, repairing some new beds and like that, and even spent time with some other residents. Even though when she was in her own room, when she just lay on her bed, didn't do anything, just lay there. There was a lot of things that she wanted to do, but she wasn't even sure about her true feelings for Kanako. Mutako, though, she really wanted to be with someone like her because she is beautiful, calmly, and most of all, fun to be around. Even despite she might be shy sometimes, but they had a lot of fun together. They had known each other for at least a while, so why not? But she had no idea, though, because she had even told anyone about her to being a lesbian except her older sister, Tsuruko. Tsuruko, Tsuruko was the only one who was aware of Motoko to be a lesbian, and her older sister supported that. And it took actually some time for her even to tell later on her family, rest of her family, like her parents, and sure enough, they were also supported that. They were just, she wasn't even sure if the rest of her family would even support it, but they did, and that made her grateful. Even though some of her other residents had asked her if she was seeing any someone, but she said no, she has been too busy to be with practice for martial arts and things like that in school, so she hadn't even had any time to do anything to be sort of dating, despite she wanted to have a girlfriend of her own. But one of the residents actually suggested that she maybe try blind date. She had a friend, a guy, maybe it could be for her, but she declined the offer. But it was too late because the next day on a Friday, this guy even showed up at this apartment building. And even though that Otako wanted to be decline the offer, but she didn't want to hurt her friend, so she luckily agreed to go on this date, despite she didn't even want to know that. And after her date with this guy, he asked her how she had it on the date, and she had a good time, but she didn't felt any sort of connection between them, and she was sorry about that. And the guy didn't take this as much as a hurt, though, because he understood, and he wished her a good time and hoped that she may find someone that make her happy, and she thanked for that. Her friend actually was a little bit curious to know how this date went, and of course, when she said that this date was good, and but the guy was not for her because she preferred to be finding someone when she feels ready, or if she finds that someone is worthy enough to be with her. Despite that, her friend tried once again to try to find some date for her, but this time she said no, even when the guy even appeared at the apartment building. The guy felt a little bit hurt, but like nonetheless, though, her friend actually took the guy on a date instead. Even though her friend was a little bit hurt herself, but she realized maybe there wasn't time for her to do so. So she let Motoko to be her own. A couple of weeks later, Motoko actually went to her practice at Shinmei Ryu School of Martial Arts, and even Konako. had asked if she could join her and maybe observe how her training goes. Even though she had even had asked her older sister just in case if it was okay that if she brought a friend who could maybe just watch her training just to see how good she is in it. And her older sister, it seems to me that she had it in mind because only had this an audience to see how practiced, how skilled both are into fighting. So she agreed. Even when Kanako was sitting in on a bench watching between when Motoko and Tsuruko were sparring against each other, she felt like this was actually the one girl she wanted to be with, but she had no idea how the things were going to be turned out. After the practice, she asked her what she thought about her skills, and she even actually said that she was very talented, even more talented than she expected in the first place. She was really impressed. That actually made Motoko blush a little bit and said thanks. Even on the way back to the apartment building, they were actually talking about mostly random things when Motoko asked her if she had found someone yet. That actually did surprise Kanako a little bit, but she said no. In fact, she had even just considered being dating anyone, boy or guy, about it now at the moment. After all, she heard about these two guys trying to ask Motoko out, but never worked. But she was at least felt happy that Motoko was single. But despite that, but then she asked Motoko if she preferred guys or girls or even both genders. Even the question itself would have been a little bit strange to Motoko, but she actually answered honestly. She was preferring girls rather than boys. And she asked Kanako the very same question. And that was meant when she admitted that she only was into girls. And then, as she said right away that she had a crush on Motoko. And from that, Kanako stopped walking as Motoko continued for only a few more steps when she told her. She was standing, just staring in front of her, but slowly turned around and asked if that was the truth. And she said yes. But she understood if Motoko didn't have any feelings for her, despite that both of them liked girls. But Motoko interrupted her. She told her that she likes her, and she was thinking about asking her out just because of that when she knows that she was a girl into girls. That surprised though, but when she did ask, Kanako didn't even waste a second to answer the question, which she said yes immediately. But they decided to keep this as secret, at least for the time being, because they have no idea how the rest of the residents of their apartment building would react, and especially the rest of the families do know. But at least one person they could tell, and that was actually Tsuruko. Motoko's older sister was already aware about her being into girls. It wasn't until only about 6 months later after when Motoko and Kanako had been started dating when her parents became aware of it, or at least about she was a lesbian. And even after that particular date, they started being dating and they sometimes went to either a park or did homework together, either at the local library, just as a date. Even they tried to make things act that they were just friends, but and eventually their friends managed to figure out what's going on. And they were just happy to see both of them really happy with someone to trust and at least to care about. And only after 6 months, when they very first start dating, there was that time when Motoko had revealed to her parents that she was a lesbian and she had a girlfriend. Her parents were actually not demanded, but they requested if they could meet her girlfriend for the first time, maybe over dinner. Even though that Motoko was a bit nervous at this first reaction meeting with her girlfriend to her parents for the first time. Even despite that, her nervous feelings was really unnecessary because they actually loved her personality. She even made her mom laugh at some bad joke, and even her dad said that she was really polite and even honest of herself. Despite that, she was a temporarily manager for the Hinata department. Even after her parents, even from Kanako's parents, were actually very surprised though, and even open to know that their daughter was having a girlfriend and she was a lesbian. That that didn't even stop their question about their potential future if they had any plans for continuing to be together for a longer time. But even though both were hadn't even considered being dating for that long though, because they had just been dating for 6 months, but they actually thought maybe if it was possible if they still remained together for at least some more several more years later, perhaps they would probably settle down and maybe get married. But that was still far in the future, and they didn't want to think that far, too far, and too much. No. They wanted to embrace the present day, rather than thinking about potential future for themselves. But after they had been together for nearly 6 years, after that they actually went to two separate college. Despite being away from each other for so long, they always kept each other in contact with each other over emails, letters, and even FaceTime sometimes over the phones or the computer. Even though their college was separated from miles away from different parts of the country, but they actually did work it out. There were even some words about in Motako's family that her relationship with Kanako would last because of the long distance, but they managed to work it out. And after that both was finished with their college, they actually went back to their hometown and they actually managed to buy a small apartment in center of town. Around the time though, Motoko was now running the news Shimrei Shim, Shimei Ryu School of Martial Arts, and Kanako was actually the new manager for Hinata House apartment building, which she was created to do so. And after they had been together for so long, Mutoko actually took the next step by asking Kanako to marry her, which she said yes. Despite having so much love for each other, this was on the next level there in their relationship they can never to go back from. Because this was something they both wanted. They even had a wedding at the School of Martial Arts, and it was the perfect time. They even celebrate the honeymoon in a small lake house for about a week. And even though that they lived in this small apartment, after they had been married for about 2 years, they wanted to start a family of their own though. But they were just curious to know how to be doing so. In fact, they were actually introduced this adoption agency in their town. And they actually did adopt two daughters of their own, twins, about age 9. And they loved them, both of them. But around the same time, only about 3 years later, when they adopted a third kid, a boy. And it was a great time for all of them, despite knowing that Motoko had found her true love, and that if she had even told Kanako about her true feelings, she would have missed out such much true happiness, not only with the one she loved the most, but especially from their three children together. She was really grateful to have someone like Kanako in her life. And even Kanako, she couldn't have even asked for any better wife than Motoko. Motoko to her was the most beautiful girl ever that she can ever see. She was the most beautiful woman that's ever lived on the planet Earth. But even especially to have 3 children with her. That was something that she really, really pressured, that she valued the most of all. Having a family with the one that she loved the most of all, though, it is something that she would only had wished to happen. And both her dreams came true. One, to find someone that she loved the most, and two, to have an amazing family with the one that she loved most. And this is how Motoko and Kanako and the true love got a big family together. The end.